The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday in the Riv. And let's start off the proceedings with Commander COVID.
Not a problem. The COVID numbers as of yesterday, total cases 143,927. New cases 986. Total deaths 9,589. New deaths 30. Bristol County had 11,334 cases. Fall River, on the other hand, had 21 new cases, bringing the count up to 2,351. Our fatalities still remaining at 136. So it's interesting to see why we're in the red. And we're still in the red. So we got a 10.5% increase. According to the state numbers, I believe. 10.5%. That's not a small amount. So we'll have to look and see what happens. Have to definitely.
Well, remember, according to our leaders, we need 3 weeks of data, but the data is not looking good right now. So
right,
something's being, this is a very difficult thing to track, but I mean, we do know that we shouldn't probably be having a lot of these events that are being planned because there seems to be an issue with the spread. And again, if you go to every basketball court in the city, you'll see it. And, the irony, I was walking the dog this morning, and the tennis courts at BCC still don't have the nets up. And I found that ironic because it's far easier to social distance playing tennis than it is to play basketball. But the basketball hoops are up, so that seems to be the entire definition of this COVID. They shut down gymnasiums, but they allow food stores open and there's hundreds and hundreds of people in food stores. So, right. Because the bottom line is they keep forgetting that it's up to the people. If you're not going to social distance, if you're not going to wash your hands, if you're going to go touch gym equipment or store shelves and then lick your fingers, well, you're probably going to get the COVID. And therein lies the rub, because they've made this a political issue. And that's the problem. The medical science can't even agree on this. It's something new. They need a lot more data, but they've made it. And hopefully, after November 3rd, we'll actually start focusing on dealing with this, not the politicizing of it, as they did, as they have been doing since the campaigns of both parties started in earnest, because the Democratic Party has made this fundamentally the foundation of their campaign.
Well, if you look at last night's debate, you saw that, and people are having arguments already on Facebook about who won the debate. I've got to give Trump credit. He was able to contain himself. And I think that was more important than anything else, was that he contained himself. And he did just that. So I definitely got to give him credit there.
Well, the moderator was the best of the three, without a doubt. But as you said, we can't, and she did a really good job. And to me, the area she did a really good job is she actually asked a couple of tough questions to Biden.
Right.
Which the other moderators really didn't. She really tried to pin him down, and but I'm sure that Trump was already practicing being fairly reserved. That's reserved for him. We have to put it in context. But he was he was far more controlled, and I think that was the plan anyway. But the moderator really helped. And well, I mean, they can debate all you want. Everybody, if you're a Biden supporter, Biden's going to win no matter how bad he screwed up, and vice versa. But I think that from my perspective, as an independent voter, I've never been a Republican or a Democrat. Always been, in the old days, they used to call us independents. Now we're unenrolled, or whatever euphemism they use today. I don't care. But I think that Biden kind of got caught in a few obvious lies that we didn't need fact checkers. We all know that he said he was in favor of eliminating fracking. Yeah, right. He said he wasn't. Yes, absolutely not. I did not say that. And I remember a commercial where he walked up to a young lady and said, "Look in my eyes. I guarantee you." And we also saw Kamala Harris say that at her debate, there'll be no fracking. And he said it, and there were videos of it. They're actually in Republican commercials.
Right.
So I know Joe's starting to forget a lot of stuff, but he probably forgot that he did say he was going to eliminate fracking. Then later on, he tried to make it up. I said, "Oh, I mean only on federal land." No, he didn't. He didn't say federal land. And then the other big thing to me politically, and whether you're in favor of it or not, to me is irrelevant, is when he said he was going to ultimately eliminate oil and fossil fuel. That's a big economic driver in this country, especially in some of these battleground states.
Right.
Coal, oil. And he did say at the end categorically, oh, he's not going to eliminate it now, but ultimately we want zero carbon footprint here. But the reality is, I think Trump at the end really said a question that was at the end. I think a lot of people missed it. And it's too bad, because that's the problem about politics. It has nothing to do with reality. He said, well, what are you going to do about China's emissions? The reality is China is the largest polluter on the planet Earth. They are the largest polluter because they don't give two shits about any kind of regulation. They do whatever they want to produce whatever they want. And then when Joe said he was going to get a commission and rejoin that organization to put pressure on China, that's ridiculous. Come on, people. I'm going to use Joe's line. Come on. Come on, man. What's going on with you people? Do you really believe China gives a damn about what any other country says? They're the largest economic power in the world, and they're a communist nation. They throw the Muslims in concentration camps. They shoot their own people when they demonstrate. You really think that an organization of European countries and the United States is going to force China to do something they don't want? Look what happened with Hong Kong. Big demonstrations in Hong Kong. All of a sudden, what did China do? Pass the law against the demonstrations. When's the last demonstration you saw in Hong Kong? Been quite a while, hasn't it? Right. Now they'll throw all our asses in jail, and they know that. So this is the way China, and this is politics. They get on a stage and they give you such a line of BS. They make these promises that they can't keep. And that's what irritates me about politicians, because all they ever do is spin this line. And, Joe's been here for 47 years, and the question is, how much have you really done? Nothing. And what is he going to do? Create a commission to study court packing. When you study things, that's a politician's way of kicking a can down the road. And the thing is, all they ever do, and both parties, because both parties, the reality is both parties want lower taxes for the middle class. So answer me this question, CJ, and you can take it over. Because if they were both in favor of relieving our tax burden, why isn't it relieved? Because a new tax plan that will give us a huge tax break should pass unanimously if both parties are in favor of that, and they both campaign on it. But if that was true, so become woke when we're dealing with politicians. Wake up. They're all full of shit.
Just tell me how you really feel, Chip. Tell me how you really feel. No, you're right there. I mean, they run on the fact that they want to give tax breaks to the little guy. They want to, make sure that the middle class stay middle class, and we're gonna, give tax breaks. But when they pass these tax bills, they're either raising the taxes on everybody or they're lowering the taxes on businesses and giving a few pennies to the middle class. That's not cutting the taxes to the middle class. That's not a big deal. Even for Trump, he thought that giving, the tax breaks that he gave to people was going to work out. It doesn't work that way. We need more. We need more than what you're giving us. If you can give billions of dollars to these major corporations, you can give the little guy, the moderate income, middle income people, a little bit more in tax breaks. Give us a few $1,000s, not just a few hundred. Give us a few $1,000s, or maybe a few 100,000. That would help us even more. So you've got to look at this the way it really is. It's, as you said, it's a line of BS, and they keep serving it like there's no tomorrow. And the bigger problem is not that the politician serves the BS. The bigger problem is that everybody eats it like it's pablum, and they believe it. Okay? And then they vote for these same people again, and then they say, well, he's my guy, he does that. And, well, he didn't do that, but he did this, and he didn't do that, and he did this. So I'm going to keep voting for him. And because he's a Democrat, I have to vote for him. Or because he's a Republican, I have to vote for him. No, you don't have to do anything but breathe and drop dead. Those are the two things you have to do. Okay? So take it from there. It gets very basic when it comes down to that.
And you're right, CJ, because all we have to do, and sometimes it's really hard to put the federal government in perspective, because when we're talking about trillions of dollars, people can't even comprehend that. There's so many zeros at the end of a trillion, because we talked about the difference between a million and a billion, which is like 200 and some years is a billion versus 360 some days for a million. That's how different it is. Now think about a trillion. I mean, it's insurmountable. It's almost it's almost a millennium. So it's like probably 1,000 years compared to a few days between a million and a trillion. So it's hard to understand when we talk in numbers of that magnitude, because all we do is look at the first 14 trillion. Well, if you look at the zeros, they won't even fit on your computer, on your calculator, unless you got a scientific notation calculator. But the reality is that we can't comprehend it. But just let's look at Fall River. Every single year when they set the tax rate, who do they screw 90% of the time? The residential taxpayer. They give the businesses, they're always whining about getting a lower tax factor. Oh, we can't do it. We can't do it. Give us a TIF. Give us a lower tax rate. Give us everything, and we'll employ 3 people at minimum wage. And who do they shift the burden to? Us. And is that the right thing to do? No, because Newton, which has 10,000, that's what I said, 10,000. You can remember that figure, okay? 10,000 more businesses than we have in Fall River, because they have a very high income. And that's what drives business. Economics is driven by the people. You buy. That's why they gave you a stimulus check, to try to drive the economy, because the real economy is the people buying things. This is the economy. But you look at what they do. They don't give you the money. In Newton has 10,000 more businesses than us, because their average income is like 5 times what is at Fall River for a family and an individual. They've got money to buy stuff, so they're going to have more places of business. But then you come to Fall River, which has got a poverty level of nearly 1/4. And what do we have last statistically? 80% of the children in our schools are on the meal plan.
Yeah, well, they're all on it
So
now.
this is a very poor, very poor community. People have if you shift taxes into our pockets, it actually hurts the economy, as Columbia and Princeton and a few other colleges said when they studied TIFs. They don't work because now when you make us take more money out of our pocket to pay taxes, those businesses are actually suffering. And by the way, Newton has the maximum tax factor. But we're always trying to think that that's going to stimulate the economy. It flies in the face of real economics because they show their duplicity by what they do. What are they trying to do? They're all crying about getting out the new stimulus package, and they're not stimulating it by lowering businesses' taxes. It's by giving people money because people with money buy things. But if you take all their money, but look at Fall River. Every single tax cycle, they will be in front of the council, whining up a storm, telling the city council to shift the tax burden to the people, to the taxpayer. Because they don't really care. And most of those businesses that are there don't even do a lot of business in Fall River. You think Matook's fight? How many? I'd really like to know how many $500 Matook towels have been sold in Fall River. Can you find a Matook towel in any store in a greater Fall River area? I don't think so.
You have to go online. You have to go online.
So, this is the BS that we get fed. And we look at it at Fall River and take what they do in Fall River, TIFs, and shifting a tax burden to us from the businesses, which is the wrong thing to do, and giving out TIFs even when they've proven to be no good, and multiply that by 1 billion. And that's what happens on the federal level. So politicians are all BSs.
Did you hear Biden last night, though, turn around and say, our founding fathers made it so that the federal government can, what do you say, deficit spend, okay? And so he was pushing for us to do more deficit spending. Okay, all we're doing is printing the money, and we're devaluing our own money, and that's one of the. And who's going to pay this money? Who's going to pay it back? Because let me tell you something. They talked about South Korea having, nuclear weapons, and China and this, that. China and Japan, they don't need to have a war. All they're going to do is call in their notes, and they take over the United States. Let these big investors who are buying the notes call them in, and let's see how fast the United States can get out of trouble. Because they can't.
Well, you're right, CJ, and I'm going to tell you. He made a lot of statements that he seemed to forget that he did say that he was going to eliminate fracking, and he did say he was going to eliminate oil. But it just goes to show how convoluted the Democratic Party's perspective has become. Our forefathers didn't allow the government to deficit spend, so we can just throw money into an endless hole and urinate it away. Because you know what happens? Remember, when our forefathers were here, this was basically an agricultural nation. People grew their own food. There was very little manufacturing. Completely different economy. Does any Democrat on the planet understand that ultimately this nation will collapse if you continue to deficit spend? Because after a while, and we're very, very close to that now, this country is going to collapse. Can anybody say the word Greece? Do you remember what happened to Greece?
Yeah.
Their economy collapsed. It collapsed. It was done. Their money was worthless.
And they begged the European Union to bail them out.
And they had to beg every country in Europe to bail them out. That's right. And that's what's going to happen. For God's sake, get your head out of your rectum. You buy this stuff. You listen to somebody say, this is why we can deficit spend, which is saying, look, we're going to keep promising all this stuff. But remember, number one, they'll never keep that promise. But if they did, they would destroy this nation. You cannot just keep spending. It's like you at home. You get 500 credit cards, you max them all out. You can't afford now even to make your basic credit card payments. And what happens to you? You're done. Bank, you can't pay your mortgage, you can't pay your credit cards, you can't get any more credit, and ultimately, you're going to lose everything.
Right.
That's what happened to Greece. And they begged Europe to help them out of the hole. And frankly, Greece has not recovered even today.
Right.
Fully. You'll destroy this nation. This nation is what it is because we were the biggest economic power in the world. We're not anymore, as you said, CJ. China is. Japan is. We were up there with them, but we still owe a lot of debt to China and Japan, as you said. And for somebody to run for the presidency of the United States and make a statement like that is totally absurd. It shows that you have absolutely no grasp on the economic realities of a nation, because you just can't continue to deficit spend. And I'm sure George Washington, when he talked about deficit spending, they were not thinking about the deficit spending of the magnitude we have now. And because, George Washington knew deficit spending isn't good. They'd only do it if they had to. And secondly, by the way, and I think we've said it before, George Washington was not in favor of political parties.
Right.
He said they're dangerous because he predicted what would happen today. You would end up with parties only caring about being in power rather than worrying about the American people. So, but it's when you watch these debates, it infuriates me sometimes with what they say to the people, and they don't even have to say it a lot because the people just want to believe that they're going to get something for free. And as the old adage said, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Well,
unless you're an illegal immigrant in the United States.
Well,
and the Democrats take power.
If you're in Fall River, everyone gets a free lunch.
Yeah.
But to get away from
but it's not free, because remember, somebody else is paying for that lunch.
That's right. To get away from the national stuff real quick, I should say real quick, we had a couple of issues happen here in Fall River. We had gunshots fired over on Rodman Street. Imagine that. Gunshots again. Can you imagine that? I believe that was Rodman and 4th. So, hey, that works for economic development. Come to Fall River where you can be shot. But I think the big story is the fact that 14-year-old developmentally disabled child that was found dead in his home with drugs present. He's actually a triplet. And according to what some reports have stated, they found fentanyl in his system. Now, fentanyl is a strong opiate. And I'll tell you now, for a 14-year-old child to have opiates in his system is serious. 80 pounds, weighed 80 pounds, and he was 5'10". He must have looked like something out of Auschwitz. And the Fall River school system said that they couldn't see it because he was on remote learning only. Remote learning only. So, I mean, believe me, if I was 80 pounds, my face would be sunken in. My eyes would be sunken in. Okay? You can't tell me that nobody saw it. And if nobody saw it, I don't know what they were looking at. It's and I'm not trying to blame the school system, but this child fell through the cracks in numerous places. Now all the children are in the state system. His one of his his triplet brothers, two of them are in state service, and the baby that was in the house, I don't know, 3 years old, is also in state service. The parents are in jail and they have no bail. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this one. And the parents have not been charged yet with the murder of this child. They have not charged them with the murder of this child. So let's find out if the DA has the backbone to do that, or if he even can do that. He may not be able to do that. That's another issue. So, I mean, this is what's called making Fall River wonderful, right? This is what's working for economic development.
This is why sometimes I don't like to get on the local scene, because things like this it's inexcusable. Another reason why they should be in school, because number one, they get food. Secondly, they can monitor them. That's the reason they passed these laws that allowed teachers and healthcare professionals who see signs of abuse are required to report it.
Right.
And this is the problem in a society. Now, this is a travesty of the system. It's just a failure on so many levels of the system to not protect our children. Now, this is, again, the remote learning. Number one, they've proven that remote learning, they learn about 1/3 of what they're supposed to learn. Secondly, that's a big factor about the school environment that a lot of people don't understand. That the school environment is a place where it acts as a secondary monitor for these children. Some of these children come from extremely dysfunctional homes. And when they go to school and you can see, evidence of abuse, physical abuse, or you see, like this, there had to be symptoms of malnutrition. They are mandated to report these things, and maybe something could have been done, and maybe this young could have been saved. And it's sad. And as I said, the COVID virus, we can't go to school, and and they've proven it transmission wise and symptom wise. These children are not really at a high risk, but they're in a higher risk of becoming suicidal, of being abused more at home. And we've discussed this ad nauseum on television with people saying why we should be back in school and things like this. And look what happened. Fall River. In Fall River, it's just appalling. I mean, when you see something like that happen, there's just no way to sugarcoat it. You can't make this. You can't not be disgusted by this scenario. It's
true, and when I heard the story, I was nauseated. It was just terrible, and to see one of the local news channels actually showed pictures in the courthouse of the two parents. Well, one's a parent, one's the girlfriend or something. And, you looked at them and you're like, and they were using drugs and they were ignoring their children. They were neglecting them. They weren't feeding them. I mean, what else was going on? Could they have been sick and nobody known? I mean, obviously this happened to the point where this child may have been starved to death. Is that what we want? I know it's not what I would want. And I know starving is not an easy task, but it's sad. So, think about those things when you're thinking about what's going on in Fall River and why our children maybe should be in school or shouldn't be in school. And what can the system do to protect them further in the situation that we're currently in? That's the important thing. Well, we are out of time. That went by very fast. I want to thank you for inviting us into your home. I had a wonderful time spending this time with you. And remember, stay safe and stay angry. Have a good weekend.